Previously on this channel, I flew from LaGuardia on the day of Winter Storm Hernando and made it a point to take an earlier flight before the airport shut down at 5 p.m. Many flights were canceled, but mine operated with a delay. The weather worsened as the day progressed, but we made it out into the active taxiway system. Before takeoff, we got de-iced on the Echo de-ice pad, which is right next to the runway, and after doing some ice shedding, we made it to the runway where we took off into a low, snowy sky, which provided no view at all. This channel focuses heavily on views, but that video took a close look at irregular operations at LaGuardia Airport. Make sure you check that video out, because this video picks up where that one left off. Finally, we're seeing some blue skies, and it's quite bumpy here as we approach our cruising altitude. We've passed White, our initial departure fix, and are over New Jersey in the en route phase of flight, talking to the high-altitude air route traffic control sectors. It's so nice up here. What a change from the miserable weather below. Here's our path out of LaGuardia, and we're basically going the same direction we were going since we turned right after takeoff, south. Looking east, I can see other planes, like this JetBlue A320 flying from Orlando to Albany. There goes a Delta 737 from Palm Beach to Boston. This Allegiant A320 is flying from Punta Gorda to Portsmouth. And down there is a Breeze A220-300 flying from RDU to Hartford. Here's another Breeze flight from RDU. This one is headed to Providence. Here, an Air Canada A220 from Nassau to Montreal races a Spirit A320 from Myrtle Beach to Boston. Who knew I'd be having so much fun above the clouds today? Never let someone tell you it's cloudy so there's nothing to see. It wasn't until North Carolina until I was able to see land. I'm getting the best of both worlds now. First break in the clouds around Myrtle Beach. My first town sighting was Andrews, North Carolina and Cherokee County. Population, 1,600. Now that's a great view of Charleston with its antebellum houses and cobblestone streets. We can't see those details from up here, but we can see how the city is laid out, and we can see the runway and taxiway system here at the Charleston International Airport. We'll head out a few miles offshore here at Edisto Beach, South Carolina. It must be windy down there since I can see many whitecaps in the Atlantic Ocean. It's a smooth ride up here, but I'm sure it's rough for this ship, a brand new container ship called Ever Model, operating for Evergreen Marine Corp, going from Cologne East in Panama to Savannah, Georgia. We're getting closer to our destination. We're starting on down to MCO. There goes the Florida coastline. We're joining the land over Flagler Beach today. We'll be paralleling the shoreline before heading inland to Orlando. Down there is Daytona Beach. I have many videos on my channel where I fly into and out of here, the Daytona Beach International Airport. The airport sits right next to the Daytona International Speedway, home to the famous NASCAR Cup Series motor race, the Daytona 500. Further south, I had a nice view of the New Smyrna Beach Airport. We've moved inland a bit on the arrival and are setting up for a right downwind leg to our landing runway, runway 35 left today. Landing on runway 35 left is good news. It's the closest runway to our gate, and we can easily vacate the runway and taxi to the gate in 3 minutes. This is needed because we're behind schedule. When we left LaGuardia, we were scheduled to be 10 minutes late since we had to wait for crew. We wound up spending an extended amount of time at the gate because they were missing passengers. The gate agent came on board to ask if around 15 passengers were on board. I don't think they were. I suspect I know what happened. While I was headed to LaGuardia in my car, I got a message on the Delta app saying that my flight, Delta 1305, was canceled, and the app provided options to rebook. But the flight was not canceled. Flight 1305 is a two-leg flight, and once it lands at Orlando, it goes back to LaGuardia with the same flight number. That flight from Orlando to LaGuardia was canceled, but some glitch showed this flight was canceled. I suspect that's why some passengers did not show up. Even though there was a mad rush for everyone to get out of LaGuardia since the airport was going to shut down around 5 p.m., there were empty seats on this plane, and I think it has to do with an erroneous cancellation message. If so, those poor passengers, but I have to say I benefited from it because the seat next to me remained empty. It was occupied on the seat map earlier in the day. So we wound up leaving the gate at 2:12 p.m. The scheduled departure time was 1:35 p.m. But once we left the gate, we had to get de-iced because the snow was coming down heavily in New York. So we had to taxi to a de-ice pad where we sat for an extended period of time, first waiting for a de-ice stand to become available and then for de-icing itself. We didn't take off until 3:02 p.m., about an hour and a half after our scheduled departure time, so we're very behind schedule. If we land on runway 35 left, we can turn left and the gate's right there. Could it be that easy? No. We're going to have a delay once we're on the ground in Orlando today. But the good news for us is that there's no one in front of us on the approach. Well, there's one plane, but it's on final approach to the runway and not a factor for us at all. We're on a right downwind leg now to runway 35 left. We need to turn a right base leg to join the final approach course. How far out we go on the downwind leg is a factor of how many planes there are in front of us. With the previous arrival nearly on the ground, we don't have to go far out at all for spacing, and as a matter of fact, the controller sees that now is a good time to turn us, so we make the right base leg now. We'll be on the ground real soon. One reason why we can turn early is because MCO is using 2 runways for landing. We're landing on the east set of 2 runways, specifically runway 35 left, but there's another set of runways on the west side of the airport, and aircraft are simultaneously landing on that side as well. This doubles the landing capacity for an airport. It's unlike where we came from at LaGuardia, where only one runway can be used for arrivals at any time. And in our set of runways, we're using the runway closest to the terminal. I've flown this at arrival many times, and each time I've flown it, I've landed on runway 35 right, which is really far away from the terminal and calls for a very long taxi to the gate. Not only is it long, but it requires us to cross runway 35 left, which means we have to wait for airplanes using that runway. We're on the right base leg at a low altitude. We're essentially making a U-turn around Narcoossee, and here we can see Alligator Lake, Sardine Lake, and Live Oak Lake. St. Cloud is directly in front of us, and in a moment we'll turn right over St. Cloud and fly over East Lake Toho as the approach controller clears us for a visual approach to runway 35 left. Here comes the turn to intercept the final approach course. We'll be on the ground in 4 minutes. We should actually be at the gate in about 7 minutes. The final approach course is a complete 180 in direction from the downwind leg that we were just flying, and for the remainder of the flight, we'll have western views only. We missed seeing the city of Orlando for today's approach because it's located to the north and west of the airport, and we did not fly in that airspace at all today. The wind is coming from the north, so we need to land to the north. Here we can see where St. Cloud meets East Lake Toho. As we proceed across the lake to the north, we'll be seeing its western shore. East Lake Toho is 5 miles in diameter and covers around 12,000 acres. It's linked to the larger Lake Toho to the southwest by a canal. While it's nice to see this lake below us, I know that we're flying into an airport with parallel runways, so I'm looking out for airplanes paralleling our approach landing on the west side of the airport. These airplanes join the final approach course with a left turn so they don't conflict with flights like ours from the north that made a right turn. I see it just to the left of our winglet and to the right of the canal. I'll zoom into it, but it's hard to see and focus because of the presence of the setting sun. That aircraft will land just a few seconds after we do, thus doubling the capacity of arrivals at this airport. MCO has tons of land, so it's easy to do that here. I think I need to stay zoomed out to stay focused. We're now making the final turn to become properly aligned with the runway. We're on the tower frequency for the controller who handles this side of the airport. This is the controller who clears us to land, and once we land, the same controller will instruct us to turn left onto a taxiway to get off of the runway so that we can get to the gate. We're now over the northern shoreline on the final approach course to runway 35 left. The remainder of this approach will be over wetlands combined with some residential areas. We're basically at the edge of the heavily populated Orlando area. The airport is east of the city, and out there in the distance is where the population increases significantly. The time now is 5:35 p.m. We were supposed to arrive at 4:35 p.m. We're approximately 1 hour behind schedule if we land and make it to the gate right away. 1 hour isn't terrible, but it's not good. I would say it's no big deal for an airport like Orlando because Delta does not have connecting flights here since it's not a Delta hub. It's a crew base, but people use MCO as a destination airport. Well, that's not the case today. Because of all the cancellations, today there are people on this flight that are actually using Orlando as a connecting airport. Specifically, there are over 10 passengers that are connecting to Minneapolis-St. Paul. They were rerouted through Orlando because there were no nonstops available from LaGuardia to Minneapolis, and there were no connecting flights available through the normal Delta connecting hubs like Detroit or Atlanta. When nothing is available, the airline gets creative and uses non-hub cities as connection points. Of course, the connection is based upon schedule, not actual, and we are 1 hour late. Will those passengers make it to Minneapolis? I'm fortunate because my final destination is Orlando, but dinner time is approaching, so I'm planning on eating in the central food court of the A and B terminal. I'll be too hungry when I land to wait and drive somewhere to eat today. Today, we're supposed to go to gate 74, which is near the runway, and I'm thinking about the plan to get there. The runway is 10,000 feet long, and there's no reason for us to use all of it. We can either vacate the runway at taxiway Hotel 5 or Hotel 3. Hotel 3 is the preferred taxiway because if we vacate there, there are 0 more turns we'd have to make, as Hotel 3 leads directly to where our gate is in airside number 4. Hotel 5 could be used, however. It gets us off the runway quicker, and that's important if there's traffic behind us. If we vacate at Hotel 5, it would still be a very short taxi to the gate. We would just turn right on Hotel or Golf and use Hotel 4 or Hotel 3 to enter the Delta ramp area. It's probably just 1 minute longer than using Hotel 3 directly from the runway. Let's land and see where we vacate. We've slowed down enough to vacate the runway, and it looks like we're going to turn off onto Hotel 5. This will add about a minute or so to our taxi time to the gate. After clearing the runway on Hotel 5, I'm expecting a right turn onto Hotel or Golf to the next taxiway Hotel 3, where we can enter the ramp at a point that would bring us directly to the gate. If we don't enter at Hotel 3, we can make a left at Hotel 4 and enter the ramp there. We would then just taxi onto the ramp and around the concourse to get to our gate. I've done this many times before, and it's a rather simple layout to get to the ramp. The ramp is wide with plenty of space to maneuver out here in Orlando. Of course, I'm looking out the window to follow every step of the way, but it looks like we're not going the way I expected. We're turning to the left and are about to go the wrong way on Golf. Well, that means that we'll be entering the ramp in a different area on the south side. After Golf, a right turn on Echo would lead us to the 2 entry points on the south side, Echo 5 and Echo 4. It doesn't make much sense to me since we're going to gate 76, but on occasion, Delta parks planes on the south concourse at the 80s gates, so maybe we were given a new gate. It doesn't seem like a big deal if we do this because it would only add about 2 more minutes to the taxi in. We're actually headed down to Echo 4 today, and what I don't know yet is that there are 5 other Delta planes ahead of us that landed before us, and all of them are waiting for gates. We're simply being positioned at the back of the line. The problem is that none of the flights are ready to leave their gates because there's a computer problem at the airport. Here's the announcement from the pilot.
The bad news is apparently the gates are currently occupied. I guess we're having some issues with our computer system, the ticketing system, and it's preventing the departing aircraft from leaving the gates because they don't have the information they need to leave the gates, so there aren't any available gates. So there are quite a few aircraft in front of us that have been waiting for gates for a while prior to our landing, so we're kind of in that line now. They really don't have a good estimate of time, just a wild guess, about 45 minutes, but they are working with the local airport authority to try and get some more gates open available for us that we typically don't use.
You need to just go home because they just said that there's a whole thing right now. Like you might have to just go pick up your
Got to
cousin
get
in
the
the
airport authority permission to do that, number one, and then they've got to get the employees over there to get us into the gate. So once I get any new information, I'll pass it on to you. We do apologize for the delay. We weren't aware of it until after we landed.
We are at the airport. We just don't have a gate to go.
We are probably going to be sitting here for a period of time without moving the aircraft, so if you absolutely need to use the facilities, feel free to do so. However, just ask that kind of take turns doing so.
I know it's what? It's 5:45. If your cousin had to be at the airport by like what?
So we just wait. On occasion, we did inch up because some Delta flights were able to leave their gates, thus freeing up space for the planes ahead of us. It's nice, but the problem is that since the pilot made an announcement saying that passengers can use the lavatory, each time we inched forward, an announcement was made for all the passengers to return to their seats. That takes some time, so when the ramp controller tells us we can move up, we can't do it right away because the pilot needs to tell the flight attendants to tell the passengers to sit down, and once everyone is seated, the flight attendant has to tell the pilot that we can move. Here's our new waiting position.
Again, I can't have the aircraft move unless everyone's seated. I won't be able to let the captain know until everyone's seated with seatbelts fastened. Thank you so much for your cooperation.
We didn't wait in that position for very long because it was time to inch up again to another position as more of the Delta arrivals get cleared into their gates. You can see it's getting darker outside as the sun is setting now. I also noticed that at the 80s and 90 gates, I saw aircraft parked that don't normally use these gates. They look like spillover gates. For example, here we see a Southwest plane that usually goes to airside 2. I even saw planes that typically go to airsides 1 and 3 here. I think that because of the bad weather in the Northeast, the airlines try to keep their planes away from airports like LaGuardia, JFK, Newark, or Boston, and this led to an overflow of airplanes here in this good weather environment where there's no chance of snow. We've inched up more, and it's time to wait again. Okay, the time is now 6:27 p.m. We touched down an hour ago, and we are finally cleared into the gate as it's opened up. Our scheduled arrival time at the gate was 4:35 p.m. We're almost 2 hours late. It's all because of a series of problems. It started with waiting for crew, then irregular passenger numbers, then de-icing, then the computer problems here in Orlando. The only part of the journey that wasn't irregular was the flying itself. Everything else went off schedule today, but hey, that's kind of normal. When I buy a ticket, I really don't expect to actually fly the timings that are on the ticket. That would be abnormal. This is a reality to expect these days. As we move forward to the gate, notice how every gate is occupied. We were the last airplane in a cluster of airplanes that landed. I can only imagine how crowded the terminal is going to be. Even though all the flights to the Northeast are canceled, there's got to be a lot of people in the terminal. I've seen bad crowding here at MCO, but I've never been here when every single gate was occupied within an airplane. Let's go to the gate.
It is full of people in this terminal today. I mean, it's always crowded here, but today, I think it is just a lot more crowded than normal. Now, the aircraft that I was just on typically goes back to LaGuardia under the same flight number. That flight, of course, is canceled. LaGuardia operations are basically just not going to happen for the rest of the night. This aircraft instead is going to be going on over to LAX this evening, which is not something that normally happens, but that's what it is today. All right, everybody, I am now in the food court here at the Orlando International Airport. It's 7 o'clock at night. I've made it. LaGuardia Airport is not operating anymore. They're experiencing a really, really bad blizzard, so I'm glad that I made it here to MCO. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my flight today from LaGuardia to Orlando. Remember that if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I invite you to subscribe, click on the bell button, click on the like button, and I'll be back with many more videos just like this. Thanks, everybody.